The idea that people are simply doing this because they're bad and evil, and that's the only reason why they're doing this kind of violent behavior is silly. It doesn't matter what militant faction you're talking about. It could be ISIS, it could be Al-Qaeda, it could be the IRA, it could be the ANC. Every organization, whether they are bad or good from your personal perspective, still operate with very clear-cut reasons, okay? The Palestinians are really cool. Like, what the fuck is Marco Rubio saying? Like, why? What are you saying?
Now, Osama Hamdan, he's the Hamas senior spokesman, joins me on the phone. Good to have you with us. So, first of all, we understand Hamas fighters are currently engaging with Israeli forces inside Israel. What is the point of their operation right now?
Well, thank you for having me. It was clear that the whole operation is a response for the Israeli attacks against Al-Aqsa Mosque, Jerusalem, and the West Bank. And I have to say that there was a big message for the Israelis. The Palestinian occupied lands is still a Palestinian lands, regardless to the presence of the settlements and the settlers. And there will be a time that those lands will be evacuated from the Israelis and it will be back for the Palestinians. This is the important idea of still fighting on our occupied lands and, in the year 1948.
All right. You're fighting, as you say, to end the occupation, but why is Hamas attacking civilians?
Well, there was no attack against the civilians. All what was declared by Hamas.
Let me jump in there, Mr. Hamdan, if I may, because a statement by the UN Secretary General clearly says that he's appalled by reports civilians have been attacked and abducted from their own homes. And we've seen videos, in fact, of what looks like Israelis being taken into Gaza. Are you saying the UN Secretary General is wrong? The pictures we've seen are wrong?
This is a very important point to be figured. Through the last 20 years, Israel held attacks against Gaza and killed thousands of Palestinians, civilians, and no one has any comment. I watched President Biden talking about standing beside Israel and its attacks against the Palestinians. Well, it's a kind of hypocrisy. He is not talking about the Palestinians who were being killed. Yesterday, a whole family, 18 members.
Why is every civilian not considered a combatant since there's forced mandatory conscription? I mean, there's also children, dude. What are you talking about? And there are people who literally serve prison sentences in Israel for refusing to serve in the military, like that Taylor Swift account. The idea is that, like, Israel is 100% in the wrong, but the people being like people born in the state of Israel should get kidnapped are absolutely deranged. The idea is, in their minds, they're like, this is literally a fraction, and there is truth to this, by the way. This is a fraction of the violence that Palestinians are subjected to. And mathematically speaking, that is correct. It's just correct. If you're fucking living in Gaza and you turn around and you're like, oh, dude, what the fuck? Civilians got kidnapped. That's crazy. I'm so sorry about that. Like, yeah, that is yesterday and the day before that was the first time since in the past 50 fucking years was the first time that Israelis living inside of Israel's borders actually felt for a brief moment the genuine fear that Palestinians live with on a daily fucking basis. Straight up. Like, it was a legitimate breaking point for so many Israeli people. For Palestinians, every fucking day. You know what I mean? They literally live that reality every day. That's why there is this almost, there's almost suicidal ideation amongst people. Jesus, imagine on a whataboutism murdering civilians. Man, shut the fuck up. Are you a humanitarian? Are you anti-violence? Because I am. If you're anti-violence and your argument just starts and stops at like, oh my God, I can't believe you're not immediately specifically condoning the murdered civilians and nothing else, then you're like not a serious person, okay? I have done that so many fucking times. Shut the fuck up. Just because you're new in here doesn't mean that you can come in here and like try to use idiotic terminology here that doesn't even fit. You said whataboutism. like I've said time and time again, many people have asked me and earnestly asked me, not in a cynical way, what do you say about the two-state solution? What do you say about both sides being wrong? What do you say about peaceful coexistence with Israel? And the answer to them always is look to the West Bank. If you look at the situation in the West Bank, that's collaboration with Israel. If you look at the situation in Gaza, okay, that is not collaboration with Israel, non-collaboration with Israel. If you think peaceful coexistence with Israel has not yielded an apartheid state and unjustifiable wanton murder, punishments, and a lack of governing body and an apparatus that defends you, in the West Bank, look no further than the West Bank. It's just, it's not existing. There is no state.
Family, Shabbat family, were killed this night by Israeli bombing in an airstrike on their own house where there is no militants there. They were only civilians. While when you are talking about the settlers, you are not talking about civilians like the Palestinians. You are talking about settlers who are armed, who came to occupy the land. But if I may,
the Israelis, if the Israelis are targeting and killing...
Oh, that's crazy. They blew up a fucking tank, by the way. That's nuts. I haven't heard your takes on this as much. Wait, what? What do you think is the best solution? One-state solution, reparations for Palestinians, one-state solution that one-state solution that gives equal rights to all people living under a secular nation state that protects the rights of Jews and Muslims alike. One state, equal rights for all, secular one-state solution. It is literally demonstrably better than the fascist, right-wing, ethno-nationalist, theocratic ethno-nationalist fucking pipeline that Israel is staring down the barrel of, okay? It is 100% going to get worse and worse and worse. Unless you literally ethnically cleanse all of the fucking Palestinians living in Gaza, then you ethnically cleanse all the fucking Palestinians, like directly, violently. Not like the slow burn of like shoving them into a fucking open air prison and just being like, oh, well, some of them die all the time. No, straight up going into Gaza, killing every single fucking Palestinian, and then killing every single Palestinian in the West Bank. Men, women, children, grandparents, all of these people, unless you ethnically cleanse them in the exact same way that Nazi Germany tried to ethnically cleanse Jewish people, you are only going to continue increasingly agitating a group of individuals who are going to fight back. By the way, this is a reality that ultra-Zionists like Ben Shapiro are aware of, which is why they have advocated for different, more peaceful forms of ethnic cleansing, like putting them on trains. He has written about the final solution for the Palestinian problem. Okay? You cannot solve this problem. You can only escalate or de-escalate. And it doesn't seem like Israel is interested in de-escalating. Thank you. It's the top of the hour, everyone. Fuck you, dude. Are you serious? You made me go through this entire thing only to debate me with a top of the hour ad break? That is an escalation. A senior Saudi official told me in frustration that he finds it mind-boggling that the Israelis can't seem to understand that it is fundamentally in their interest to seek a credible framework for negotiations that can deliver lasting peace. It's so funny when the Saudi guy is like, bro, what are you doing? Read the fucking room. Saudi Arabia is probably the closest to Israel in terms of like doing whatever the fuck it wants, and then America not saying anything. After all, they did 9/11. So
he was my first endorser, and I love those endorsers when they're early.
Yeah, but he's not going to be talking about Israel-Palestine at all. He's just going to fucking blame Biden now. Wait, this is non-TOS? Here's a great video in the background of Gaza.
When is a border not a border? When it's a fence that Israel built to create the world's biggest open-air prison. Since March 30, 2018, thousands of Palestinian refugees trapped inside Gaza have taken part in the March of Return, demanding the right to return to their homes in what is now Israel. Israel built a 25-mile fence and has shot people protesting near it, saying it's defending its border. But this fence isn't a border. You know how we know that? Because Israel said so back in the 1990s. When Israel and the Palestinian Authority signed the Oslo agreements, this is how they talked about the fence. The security fence erected by Israel around the Gaza Strip and the line demarcated by the fence shall be authoritative only for the purpose of the agreement. That acknowledges that the line followed by the fence is not a border. Israel wants to portray Gaza as a separate country full of people who want to invade Israel. In fact, international law says Gaza is still under Israeli occupation.
The idea that there is actual Palestinian sovereignty in the Gaza Strip or even the West Bank is false. Israel continues to control all aspects of life in the Gaza Strip, and as such is deemed under international law to still be the occupying force.
In 2010, the UN called Gaza a large open-air prison, and it's not hard to see why. There are only 5 crossing points on the Israeli fence, and
are you kidding? Saudi's the closest to Israel? Very funny coming from an American. Saudi has always supported Palestinian. Bitch, I'm more Turkish than I am American, okay? Don't come at me with that nonsensical bullshit. And even if I was 100% full-blown American, I hope you understand that, like, you know, Saudi and Israel are America's greatest allies. Suck my dick. H91, thank you for the 25 get the subs, allowing 25 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Love when you fucking say Saudi has always supported Palestinians. Yeah, no, it's great. Curious on how you define justifiable versus non-justifiable violent Palestinian resistance. I don't define it. I don't. Like, there's no reason to. I am a firm believer that all matter of violence is bad, okay? All matter of violence is bad. It's wrong. It sucks. It's not about what I define as justifiable versus non-justifiable violence. The obvious standards are enemy combatants are fair play. Military, police, these are fair play, okay? Civilians are not. That is not my standard. That's the standard that is universal, okay? However, when you get into like anti-colonial violence, an apartheid state, there are always civilians that are caught in the fucking crossfire. That is partially the reason why you are supposed to end the apartheid state. Was the violence the ANC enacted against South African apartheid the problem, or was the apartheid the problem? Exactly. The question you must ask always is, which is the worst problem? You can look at existing post-colonial nations. You can look at anti-colonial struggles like Algeria or South Africa, okay? And an anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa. Why compare them? What do you mean why compare them? You mean look at other examples? Because we at least have the opportunity to know what's right and what's wrong instead of looking at something that's happening right in front of our eyes where people constantly just get lost in the sauce. Why do you think a lot of celebrities are supporting Israel over Palestine? Because Palestinians get no fucking like reference point for many average people. And the reality is that a lot of celebrities are fucking dumbasses, dude. What the fuck do you mean? Unless they have a direct relationship with like someone who is a Palestinian celebrity like fucking Bella Hadid or some shit, they don't know anything. Even Bella Hadid and them, they are not exactly super intelligent either, but they might be more empathetic in this situation because of their own personal experience. Yeah, Palestine has no clout, okay? There you go. Anyway, the point is, if you look at Algeria and its struggle against France, if you look at the ANC and a struggle against the apartheid South Africa, okay, there were a ton of civilian casualties. There were a ton of civilian casualties in that situation. Now, or if you look at the IRA versus the British occupation. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, when we look back at those moments, do we look at the major point of violence being the continuation of the apartheid state or the continuation of French colonial violence, or do we look at the violence that civilians were subjected to in that anti-colonial struggle? If you look at the violence in the anti-colonial struggle and not necessarily the violence of the maintenance of said colonial prospect, then you are a bad person. You are not a good person, and most people will look at you and go, "You're out of your fucking mind, dog." That's a crazy thing to say. While violence is bad, violence is unfortunately violence is unfortunately a constant, okay? It's one of the major points of politics to begin with. Politics is the distribution of resources, and it's also the distribution of violence. Who gets to do it? Who gets to be there on the receiving end of it? Okay? You have to strike the issue at its heart. And the violence begins in the colonial project. Okay? It didn't happen this weekend. It didn't start this weekend. That's why it is very sad that so many people are lost in the sauce and they get manipulated into believing like, oh, wow, this unprovoked attack by Hamas. It's like, bitch, when has there ever been a provoked attack by any Palestinian group, as a matter of fact, in the eyes of the American State Department? Never. You've never said this attack was provoked. This attack is justifiable. You always say Israel has a right to unconditionally defend itself. You never say Palestinians have a right to unconditionally defend themselves because you don't give a shit. You know? You don't care. And it is in your best interest to continue acting like the violence just begins and ends when the Palestinian side does something. Never retaliatory. It's always an escalation on the Palestinian side. And yet you look at the numbers on the board and you're like, holy fuck. That's crazy. 6,000 dead on the Palestinian side, hundreds of thousands injured versus the 250 on the Israeli side. Seems like these numbers are a little disproportionate because they are. There is an asymmetry of violence in a colonial occupation. There's an asymmetry of violence in an apartheid state. Yeah, it's gross how much people try to like make it seem like it's appropriate to bomb. Look at this. Gaza is not a continuous urban area. Statements that there is nowhere for Gaza citizens to go is not true. There are tactics, techniques, methods for citizens to get out of combat areas before the attacks. IDF warning civilians to flee specific areas and buildings. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, just go in the water. There's a 6 nautical mile fishing limit, which is a lie, by the way. Is this war because of religion? No, it's not.
3 of those have been closed for years. Of the 2 that remain, only 1 of those is for people. In September 2018, Israel allowed less than 6,000 people to exit through the Erez crossing. Israel even limits what goes into Gaza through the fence. Sage, cardamom, ginger, dried fruit, and potato chips have all been on the prohibited list.
It controls things that demonstrate that
they call this putting Palestinians on a diet, by the way. Not a prison, by the way. But they call it putting Palestinians on a diet. They literally did not allow pasta inside of the borders of Gaza. And they say that the reason is deliberate. The reason is so that they are starving and they can't fucking fight back adequately.
the degree to.
Yeah, that's why it was like ridiculous when the guy was saying oodles of luxury goods exist inside of fucking Gaza. Piece of shit, dude. May your fucking 7th generation next of kin, if you ever find someone unfortunate enough to fuck you, experience that same pain that you are actively undermining, that Gazans go through on a daily fucking basis. Shaitan.
Which it occupies the territory, including the population registry.
You're unbelievably out of touch. Oh my lord.
They are not registered within the Israeli authorities. They do not exist. They are unable to travel outside of the Gaza Strip.
More than 2/3 of people living in Gaza are registered refugees whose families were forced out of their homes by Zionist militias in 1948 in what became Israel. Israel's Jewish majority was cemented by expelling 4 out of every 5 Palestinians who had lived there. So this fence stands between Palestinians and their former homes, from which they were evicted and to which they've been forbidden from returning. It confines them to a strip of land in which they've been imprisoned as refugees for generations. To the Palestinians of Gaza taking part in the March of Return, they're not breaching another country's borders. They're simply attempting to go home.
They literally calculated the calories per person in Gaza. Israel-Gaza blockade study calculated Palestinians' calories. Israel calculated the number of calories Palestinians would need to avoid malnutrition under its blockade. It was a part of the research paper that came up in 2 discussions that we never made use of, the Defense Ministry official Guy Inbar said on Wednesday. After the document was published by Gisha, an Israeli human rights group that petitioned to receive it. You will come out victorious out of this. Being in the front lines of this debate will 100% return in your favor, trust. Bitch, I don't give a fuck about winning debates, dude. I don't give a shit about, like, coming across victorious in any number of debates. I don't do this because I want to feel the victory of debate. What debate? I care about humans, okay? I want freedom for Palestinian people. I want to free Palestine. Maybe it won't happen in my lifetime, and it certainly doesn't look like it's going to happen. That is obvious. Yeah, I don't give a shit about debates. I just want people to stop dying endlessly. I want Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank to experience the same liberties that I experience. It's fucking ridiculous that they do not. You know, access to clean water, electricity all the time. Yeah, this was really fucked up. They dropped a joint memo in Israel, and then they also, our country will support Israel in its efforts to defend itself against the people of such atrocities. It's just like, they're basically saying, like, just go ahead with your genocide. Like, we will support it across the board. Man. These are moments. There are moments like this. There are moments like this where I'm just like, I wish God was real. You know what I mean? I wish there was something like karma. But it's just, but these are also the darkest moments where I know it's not real. You know what I mean? None of it is real. Because if there was any sort of karmic justice or a God out there, these people, these demons would be, they'd be smitten down, okay, from the heavens. Like, how can you have faith that these evil deeds will be punished by Allah when there is a fucking 12-year-old that just died probably while we were talking about this because she was born inside of Gaza, okay? She just died. She got eviscerated by the most effective baby murdering machine on the fucking planet. You know what I mean? The Israeli military. And then there are motherfuckers in here being like, hey, by the way, that baby, she deserved it. And also, Israel is the most moral military on the planet. They let you know when they're doing the baby murder. They let you know ahead of time. Also, that baby was a fucking human shield for Hamas. If there was any sort of karmic justice, every single person that defended that and every single person that facilitated in that would immediately perish. Okay? Immediately. This is why heaven and hell exist? Yeah, okay.
Killing innocent Palestinian civilians, that does not mean in international law it's acceptable for Palestinian groups to target and kill Israeli civilians, right?
It's not accepted to attack civilians according to international law. And
so to come back to my question, so why? Let me, if I may, read to you a statement by Amnesty International, which is condemning the targeting by Israel of Palestinian civilians, but it's also condemning in a statement by October the 7th, saying Palestinian armed groups must refrain from targeting civilians and using indiscriminate weapons, acts amounting to war crimes. Is Amnesty wrong?
Well, I have to say that you have to differentiate between the settlers and the civilians. The settlers, according to the international law, they are not civilians. They are weaponed. They attack the Palestinians. They in fact shoot it against the Palestinians. So you have to differentiate between both issues, the civilians and the settlers, who are not, according to the international law, civilians. And we
so under international law, firing rockets, which is what Amnesty is saying, firing rockets are indiscriminate weapons that...
Yeah, he's saying the fucking argument is, he's saying settlers aren't civilians, which is true, for the record. But they're not doing this in West Bank. There is truth to what he's saying. If they were in the West Bank and doing this shit, they would 100% be within their legal boundaries to do so. What every single settler, I don't give a fuck if your best friend from Brooklyn or Long Island fucking moved to the West Bank for some free real estate, okay? Every single settler in the West Bank is engaging in an act of terror, and yes, technically they are a fucking enemy combatant. Now, the difference is, his perspective is that due to the Nakba, the entire Israeli state is occupied by occupiers and settler colonialists. There is That is where it gets a little bit trickier. What do you do with the people that live there? It's a little bit different than, in my opinion, than the same opinion that I have for those living inside of the West Bank. There are children, there are babies, there are people that do not deserve violence. There are civilians. There are people who fucking say that they do not want to serve in the Israeli military. Sometimes it's not as easy to just like leave your house and be like, I have a philosophical disagreement with the existence of the Israeli state. Yo, the international tourists at the rave were not settlers. There's also that. They fucking killed 250 people. A lot of those people were not even, or plenty of those people were not even Israeli. They were, however, in the eyes of the Palestinian people that engage in this, they were like, you guys are partying next to our fucking demise.
Can hurt and do hurt civilians.
Well, we hope that Amnesty can urge the international community to either to make an end for the Israeli occupation or to urge them to send more development.
Yeah, we tracked down where the rape thing came from, and everyone on Twitter was like, mass rape gangs are out there raping. They're rapers, and they're doing mass, savage, brutal rapes on everyone. And I didn't see a single fucking outlet write about that, which I thought was very interesting because, like, obviously, if you want to justify what you are about to do to fucking Gaza, you would go along with that and be like, yeah, this is happening a lot. The only place where that came from, the only place where that information came from was Tablet. Tablet magazine is far right to begin with, famous for articles such as, we should befriend Nazis. I am saying this as a Jewish person, and numerous other incredible, wonderful stories like that. But the far-right Tablet magazine wrote that article, and the actual rapes that were coming from was not even a first-hand account, but instead a second-hand account from a guy who was at the rave who didn't actually see anything but saw videos on Twitter. I have yet to see any other accounts of this. Now, having said that, is it possible that it could have happened? Absolutely, of course. Those tablet links have thousands of upvotes on Reddit. Yeah, because people are fucking bloodthirsty. Okay? Philip DeFranco also said they were. Yes, I'm sorry, but his assessment on foreign policy is whatever the fuck befits America's agenda. Like, come on. I like Philip DeFranco, but I've never seen him stray away from that position. What's Michael saying? Michael from Pennsylvania saying, can we just openly say that bombing Hamas targets of rebels is complete bullshit? The only people affected by bombing would be civilians. Hamas is a distributed military and political formation. They're going to have the best hiding locations, ability to move, and most resources. It's only the poor and marginalized that will get hit. Yes, 100%.
Weapons to attack just only the soldiers because we are not targeting on purpose the civilians. You know, there is a huge amount of...
Yeah, by the way, a lot of people are asking me, Hassan, where did you get the 3/4 number from? Haaretz. Haaretz made an assessment of all the casualties so far on the Israeli side, and their numbers showed 3/4 of the dead on the Israeli side are enemy combatants. No, not 34%. 3/4, as in 75%. Now, obviously, it doesn't matter because civilians still died. About the rape thing, I am totally with you on everything you were saying today, Hassan. Anyway, Hamas is a classic Islamist, and Islamists like that are largely believe that women they kidnap in war are sex slaves and fair game, etc., etc. Just for context, that's all. Again, with you on everything, just providing context as to why it could be true, like you said. Okay, let's move on.
Civilian targets inside.
I'm not going to address it. I'm not even going to address it. I'm moving on. Dude. The idea that people are simply doing this because they're bad and evil and that's the only reason why they're doing this kind of violent behavior is silly. It doesn't matter what militant faction you're talking about. It could be ISIS. It could be Al-Qaeda. It could be the IRA. It could be the ANC. Every organization, whether they are bad or good from your personal perspective, still operate with very clear-cut reasons, okay? The Palestinian coalition's actions on that moment was to engage in a rapid attack as fast as possible and take as many hostages as possible so that they could stop Israel from reducing Gaza to rubble while also penetrating the Israeli security. Okay? I do not believe that they had time to just like, I do not believe that they had time to do, to execute mass gang rape while they were simultaneously trying to fucking grab and go as quickly as possible. I am not saying that it did not happen, okay? I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm still waiting on actual information on if it did happen. And I have yet to see one. I have yet to see it. But that didn't stop people from just fucking running with that for the past 2 days, nonstop. Fantasizing about like Muslim gang rapists.
Which Hamas is not aiming on or targeting them. We have declared that the settlers, they are part of the occupation, and the settlers, they are part...
The IRA are no religious extremists that wanted to kill as many people as possible? Wait, what? Okay. You literally compare them to the IRA. Okay, first of all, I compared them to the ANC as well. I compared the situation that Palestinian people are facing to the IRA situation and the ANC situation. No, I do not believe that Hamas is like the IRA politically, okay? But it is pretty funny that you said the IRA is not religious. That is funny. Okay? So that in and of itself is relatively funny. Like, where do you think the divide happens, or what are the boundaries on which the divide occurred? So that's funny, but you can only have that perspective if you are literally Christian, because you're like, and an American Christian, mind you, not a British one, not an English one, but an American Christian. Only an American Christian would look at the Troubles and think religion played no role in this. Okay? Because in your mind, everyone is either a Catholic or a Protestant, but they're all Christian, right? So you didn't even think of that as a thing. But there were definitely religious divisions, so that's one. But no, of course, I do not believe Hamas is in any way, shape, or form ideologically similar to the IRA. As a matter of fact, my goal, my hope, is a future without Hamas. And of course, you cannot simply bomb Hamas out of Palestine. The only way that you can erode the influence of Hamas is by doing the exact opposite of what Israel has done so far, which has led to more support for Hamas by Palestinian people. Yes, Ireland was famous as the first colonial project of the British, and they engaged in Protestant superiority and cleansing Catholics from Ireland.
Part of the armed Israeli power. They are not normal civilians as they are named all the time.
So some of these towns, though, are in the southern areas of Israel. We're not just talking about settlements in the West Bank.
Well, everyone knows that those are settlements. And if you are talking about Sderot, it's a settlement. If you are talking about Netiv, it's a settlement. Those are settlements on our occupied lands, 1948. Everyone has to understand that the Palestinian lands is a whole complete land from sea to river. And the Israelis who signed the Oslo Agreement, even they did not implement the agreement, and they are still taking over the Palestinian.
Stop. Isn't the situation between Palestinians and Israel equal to Quebecans and... Oh my God, dude. Yes. Dude, this is what I was waiting for, dude. This is what I want. I want creative motherfuckers out there doing the damn thing, okay? I can't only be looking at Indian Twitter to see the most unhinged takes I've ever seen, like, you know, this shit. Okay? I need that good shit. I need that fucking that Quebecois juice, dude. Yes. You are right. This is the classic what is it? Quebec is a Quebecois, a francophone Quebecois is treated like an N-word in Canada moment. So good. Thank you. Thank you for finally doing something good, okay? When I try to explain the Palestinian fight for freedom and the argument back is just examples of Hamas violating corpus beginning to get rid of the hostages, how would I continue to show that Palestinians still deserve the ability to fight for their freedom? The question always is, when you look back at ANC and the violence that they pushed on civilian populations, same with the IRA, same with the Algerian anti-colonial struggle, do you think of the colonizers or the apartheid state and its maintenance as being the larger form of violence, or do you think about the anti-colonial struggle as being the violent ones? Which is the problem? Which is a bigger problem for you? Is the bigger problem the apartheid state and the violence of its maintenance, or fighting against the apartheid state successfully? That is the real question, because the reality is that every single instance of violence that you can point to that the Palestinians have engaged in, and they have certainly engaged in violence, especially this last time around, there are 1,000 more examples of Israel continuing to exist as an apartheid state, which is precisely why so many people who want to defend Israel end up unironically using examples of Israel against Palestinians to be like, look at what they're doing. Look at what the Palestinians are doing. And then they find out, oh shit, that's actually the Israelis that cage the fucking children.
Lands. So what the Israelis are doing, they are telling the Palestinians there is no hope for the Palestinians to have their independent state.
Anyway, I'm done with this. Yes, Hamas's perspective on the matter is that they're not killing any civilians because all settlers are technically not civilians but colonial occupiers, and they believe that the entire nation state of Israel is, due to the Nakba, technically a colonial occupation. Okay? So they think that their violence is completely just.